is Thursday, April 8th, the year 2021. This is a regular meeting. Can you hear me? I just want to check with Sharon. Can you hear me when I do this? Okay. This is a regular meeting of the Peoria County Board. I will call it to order. Everyone please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. Madam Clerk.
Roll call, please.
Junior.
18 present.
Thank you.
Next would be approval of the minutes.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the March 11th County Board meeting and the March 11th County Board Executive Session minutes? Thank you, Ms. Daly, and thank you, Ms. Betty Duncan. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing none, please vote.
Eighteen ayes. Next would be proclamations and presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenbaum. Welcome. Those of you that are not used to the business of the county's regular meetings, Mr. Rosenbaum chairs our Public Safety and Law Enforcement Courts Administration Committee. And I've asked him to present tonight's proclamation to the National Correction Officers Week as well as National Police Week. Joining him for this august commendation is Sheriff Asbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This week of Sheriff, come on up. This week of May 2nd through the 8th of 2021 has been designated as National Correctional Officers Recognition Week. And whereas from 2009 to 2019, the total imprisonment rate fell 29% among black residents, 24% among Hispanic residents, and 12% among white residents. And whereas from 2008 to 2018, the jail incarceration rate increased by 12% for whites and decreased by about 30% for blacks, 28% for Hispanics, 33%, is decreased 30% for blacks, okay, I'll keep going. Whereas in 2018, more than two-thirds, 68% of jail inmates were held for felony charges, and whereas the male jail inmate population decreased 9% from 2008 to 2018, while the female inmate population increased 15%. Now therefore I, Andrew A. Rand, Chairman of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, do hereby acknowledge the week of May 2nd through 8th, 2021 as National Correctional Officers Recognition Week, and urges all citizens and institutions to observe the week of May 2nd through the 8th, 2021 in Peoria County through the observance of National Correctional Officers Recognition Week, dated this 8th day of April, AD 2021, signed by Andrew A. Rand, Peoria County Board Chairman, and Rachel Parker, Peoria County Clerk.
Thank you, Sheriff.
And the second proclamation is By the act of Congress and presidential proclamation, May 15th of each year is designated National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which it falls is National Police Week. The 7-day period is set aside to recognize the contributions to society of our nation's police officers and to dedicate May 15th to graveside services and other memorials for the police officers who have been killed in the line of duty. Whereas crime fighting has taken its toll, since the first recorded police death in 1786, there's been more than 22,000 law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. And whereas compared to the same time frame of 2020, officer deaths are up by 43% so far in 2021, and whereas from 2018 to 2019, 29% fewer black persons and 22% fewer white persons were victims of serious crimes, generally felonies. And whereas the Peoria County Sheriff's Office will hold the Honors Board Awards event on May 11th, 2021. Now therefore I, Andrew A. Rand, Chairman of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, do hereby acknowledge the week of May 9th through 15th, 2021 as National Police Week, and urge all citizens and institutions, public and private, to support police services through the observance of National Police Week. Dated this 8th day of April, AD 2021. Signed by Andrew A. Rand, Peoria County Board Chairman, Rachel Parker, Peoria County Clerk. Thank you, Sheriff.
Sheriff?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be real quick. All the numbers and percentages got me a little bit lost there, but we do this every year, and I can't stand in front of you without saying how proud I am of each man and woman that work for us at the Sheriff's Office, especially what they've been through this last year and what they're going to continue to do through this next coming through year. They're doing wonderful work, and I always like to say, you know, like especially the correctional officers, it's the offensive line of the criminal justice system. They do all the work and they don't get much credit, and they do so a valiant job on a daily basis, and I couldn't be more proud of them. But this is also a week to remember those that we have lost. It's coming to work every day, and I've mentioned this, you walk past a monument with people's names on it that paid the ultimate sacrifice. So we should remember that too. So thank you.
Next is a proclamation recognizing April 26th through the 30th, 2021 as National Work Zone Awareness Week.
Welcome, Mr. Salzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
Come
well,
on up, Amy and Jeff. Two good people we've got out at our...
Jeff, Amy, how about standing right here so you get in the frame real good with...
our highway department and so forth. They do an excellent job, and this National Work Zone Awareness Week is very dear to me. Since in 1956, my very first construction job was to work for R.A. Conan, and we had a project from on Old 150 that went from Morton to Deer Creek. And I learned very quickly, you better watch out when you're working on the highway. And because people, you know, they'll take all kinds of chances, and your life's in danger. And that's why we're very concerned about our township workers, our city workers, our county workers, and our state workers. So I'm happy to read this proclamation. Whereas highway construction work and repairs to roadways must be done while they are open to traffic, putting both motorists and workers at risk every day. And whereas workers diligently continue to improve, rebuild, and maintain roadways so that motorists can safely and efficiently travel, and whereas accidents can be prevented by setting aside distractions using extra caution. reducing speed, and giving a work zone undivided attention when motoring. And whereas Peoria County is dedicated to ensuring safety in work zones for workers, motorists, passengers, bicyclists, and pedestrians, and whereas the Federal Highway Administration will kick off the 2021 roadway construction season with their 21st annual National Work Zone Awareness Week from April 26th to the 30th, and whereas Peoria County urges all motorists to continue to recognize the responsibility that comes with driving a motor vehicle and the importance of maintaining safe and smart driving habits during the construction season and at all times when operating a motor vehicle. And whereas Peoria County reminds motorists that hands-on use of cell phones, as well as sending, reading, or composing an electronic message while driving is prohibited at all times. And whereas motorists are required to slow down and changes lanes, if possible, when approaching an emergency construction or maintenance vehicle that is stationary and displaying flashing red, blue, white, or amber lights. Now, therefore, I, Andrew A. Rand, Chairman of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, so hereby resolve to promote roadway safety and call upon all motorists to acquaint themselves with the rules of the road, to remain alert and vigilant when motoring, and to recognize the contributions of those who work in construction zones as they work to maintain and enhance our highways and roadways. Dated this 8th day of April, AD 2021, Andrew A. Rand, Peoria County Board Chairperson, Rachel Parker, Peoria County Clerk. Thank both of you. Here, who wants to say something?
Nope, you got it.
I've got it. You want me to talk about you guys? That would be easy because these two people, they come to our committee meetings every month, and they do a good job of really preparing what they need to have done, and this is one thing I know they're concerned about, the safety of their workers.
Thank you, Phil.
Next is a proclamation recognizing April and May 2021 as Gerald M. Brookhart Arts and Education Spring Celebration Months.
Well, get ready to get lifted up. Mr. Ricker, are you inviting Superintendent Kreider with you? Oh, there's some bipartisan love. Come on over here, Beth, so I can see you. Correct.
So the honor of speaking of arts and education, so two things near and dear to my heart and to my partner in crime over here's heart. So the proclamation, whereas the Peoria County Regional Office of Education is committed to the establishment and continuation of programs in the schools which provide the opportunity for academic excellence in students, and whereas the Peoria County Regional Office of Education supports the development and promotion of programs in the fine arts and applied arts. Whereas the Gerald M. Brookhart Arts and Education Spring Celebration is a harbinger of spring, now includes over 100 schools from seven central Illinois counties. So Peoria, Tazewell, Woodford, Fulton, Marshall, Henry, and McLean County. Whereas this year's Gerald M. Brookhart Arts and Education Spring Virtual Celebration is the 35th annual event of celebrating the arts in Central Illinois. And whereas the 2021 Gerald M. Brookhart Arts and Education Spring Virtual Celebration will take place from Friday, April 30th through Friday, May 14, 2021, on the Gerald M. Burkhart website and YouTube channel. Now, therefore, I, Andrew A. Rand, Chairman of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, do hereby proclaim the months of April and May 2021 as Gerald M. Burkhart 2021 Arts and Education Spring Virtual Celebration Months, dated this 8th day of April, AD 2021, signed by Andrew A. Rand, Peoria County Board Chairman, and Rachel Parker, Peoria County Clerk. So I will hand this off, and really I want to celebrate this great event and celebration of the youth and education and arts. It's just an awesome program. I know it's going virtual again this year. Hopefully we'll see next year I can stand out here in the Courtyard Plaza and sing and dance and watch the students, because that is one of the things I always look forward to it. So I'm going to hand this over to my partner and let her speak.
Don't you miss them? I can say that since Rick is not here, running around and running through the mulch. I miss them. I miss them being here. And if you're in the know, we call it the GMB. So the GMB is going, well, what do you do when you miss a year, right? Is it the 34th now or the 35th? But for 35 years, children have been coming here showcasing their talents. It is one of the legacy projects of the Gerald M. Burkhart, my predecessor, and one of his proudest things. And we are so honored to carry it on. So if you want to catch the action, it will be on the Peoria Regional Office of Education social media, but it will also be on our website, which is thespringcelebration.org. Schools could register for what day they wanted to be showcased, and they're sending us their videos. Fine art, singing, dancing, musicals, you name it, we're going to showcase it, because we don't want this beautiful event to not go without notice this year. So that's our attempt to bring you the joy of those children in a pandemic, and we will hopefully bring it back next year. And Jimmy, I was on Zoom with the original GMB, and he's still a hot mess. So I hope he's watching and he heard that, and I love you, Jerry.
All right.
Next is a proclamation recognizing April as National County Government Month.
Vice Chairperson Fennel, welcome. Mr. Fennel has two items. One of them is a little bit of a surprise. The first is as published.
Okay. This is National County Government Month, April 2021. Whereas the National Association of Counties formed in 1935 and collectively it covers nearly 40,000 county elected officials and 3.6 million county employees throughout its membership base. And whereas since 1991, the National Association of Counties has promoted National County Government Month as a time to recognize counties and services they provide. And whereas Peoria County has taken an active role in the organization with the Peoria County Administrator currently serving on the Board of Directors. And whereas the nation's 3,069 counties serving more than 300 million Americans provide essential services to create healthy, safe, and vibrant communities. And whereas counties provide health services, administrative justice, keep communities safe, foster economic opportunities, and much more. And whereas the 2021 National Association of Counties theme, County Matters, was clearly illustrated this past year through Peoria County's leadership in roles in the pandemic response, and whereas Peoria County takes pride in its responsibility to provide and enhance the health, welfare, and safety of its residents in efficient and cost-effective ways. And now, therefore, I, Andrew A. Rand, Chairman of Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, do hereby recognize April 2021 as National County Government Month, dated this 8th day of April, AD 2021. Signed, Andrew A. Rand, Peoria County Board Chairman, and Rachel Parker, Peoria County Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Fennell. Gretchen, Scott, I see Scott. Come on up here where the camera can see you, Gretchen. I know where it's pointing. There you
Anything you
go.
want to say? You have anything you want to say? No. All right. So just on behalf of everyone, thanks for the proclamation. Thanks for you allowing me to serve on the NACO board. It's been a very enriching experience thus far, and hopefully we'll get to a point again where we'll be able to have some more organized events in the community once we get back to whatever the new normal is going to be.
Thank you very much, both of you. Mr. Fennell.
Thank you. I get another opportunity to address the group here and thank a person for having a service award. Mr. Paul, would you come up here, Rosenbaum? Paul has 10 years of service on the board this year. Actually, December. Paul and I came on at the same time, along with Rachel and Mary Ardapple. So here's a 10-year pin. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure serving for 10 years. I got to meet a bunch of great people, learning how government works and be a part of it, and hope to keep serving for a couple more years. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. His famous line to me when we're speaking is, I don't say much, but when I'm saying something, you need to listen. That's verbatim. Madam Clerk?
Okay, I have no citizens' remarks,
Thank
so we
you.
would be moving on to the consent agenda.
All righty, and a motion. Thank you, Dr. Blair. And the second will come from Ms. Daly. Are there any items on the agenda a member wishes to pull? Dr. Blair, C2?
C10.
Oh, 10. Okay, C10. Got you on that. Anyone else? Mr. Elsasser? C9. All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to So you're withdrawing C9. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we would be voting on all items on the consent agenda except for C10. Please vote.
Eighteen ayes.
Thank you. All right, could I get a motion to place C10 on the floor, please? Thank you, Ms. Pastuch, and a second from Ms. Daly in the back. Ms. Blair?
I'd like to abstain from this motion because it involves my employer.
Good choice. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the item? All right, please vote.
Seventeen ayes and one abstention.
Thank you.
Next would be zoning ordinance and resolutions. Item number 1 is case number 010-21-U. A petition of David L. and Amy Gokin, a special use as required in section 20.5.2.2.1.A.1 of the Unified Development Ordinance. This section allows for a special use when a proposed land split does not meet the 25-acre minimum lot size, nor the 1 dwelling unit per 25 contiguous acres density requirement in the A2 agricultural district. The petitioner proposes to divide 1.5 acres from the existing 15.38 acre tract. The parcel is located in Limestone Township. The Zoning Board of Appeals recommends approval with restriction. Land Use Committee concurs.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Motion places on the floor would be Mr. Dillon, and the second would be Ms. Williams. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Dillon, any comments? Pretty simple land split, okay? Any others? Seeing none, please vote.
18 ayes.
Pretty simple, unanimous vote.
Item 2, a resolution from your Infrastructure Committee recommending approval of quotations received from Pavement Maintenance Services, Henry, Illinois, and R.A. Cullinan and Son, Tremont, Illinois, for township motor fuel tax delivery and install proposals for seal coating and tilling various township roads.
Could I get a motion on this item, Mr. Salzer? A second? Mr. Elsasser? I'm just going to question the language here. Mr. Sorrell, for township motor fuel tax, is it deliver and install? Is that the phrase that I'm...
That is the correct phrase, yes.
Okay, all right, got it. Thank you. Items on the floor, comments? Okey-doke, are you permitted to comment on this? I keep trying to tell you, you're a township road commissioner. Well, I don't believe you should make comment or vote on any item in this broad area of business we do. Yeah, even the comment. Would you like council to clarify?
Chairman is correct. Any conflict that requires a member to abstain from voting, they're also not allowed, per your local rules, to discuss the matter or be part of the discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Just a moment,
Okay.
Mr. Salzer. I think it, unless you're hearing something different, no, you can't. You may not, okay?
This is an annual thing, and our highway department, of course, handles a lot of these township motor fuel tax funds, and out of this, the company out of Henry, Illinois, they were awarded the bids on 5 of these townships, R.A. Cullinan on 7 of them, and then 2, Rosefield and Millbrook, they both rejected the R.A. Cullinan bids and so forth. And so Amy will probably be working with these other 2 counties later on. But at our executive board meeting last month, Ms. Daly raised a question about milling and tilling, and we were a little bit confused about them, and so I tried to pursue this over the course of the time between that last executive board meeting. And there is a difference, and most of all, tilling is definitely connected with the seal coating. And I know we got some people probably explain it better than I could right here, people who are working on townships and so forth, as well as Amy, and so they can correct me if I give a misinterpretation of this. Tilling, you got a machine that grinds up all of the road, and as it grinds it up, there's oil spread on this road, and then of course they'll bring in rollers and they compact that down and so forth, and then they let people actually drive on it for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they'll eventually go back in there and they will do the seal coating. In other words, they'll put down all of the oil, tar actually, and they'll spread the chips and so forth, and then they'll roll it again so that they got it pretty well compact. The milling, which is more so used in the asphalt area, and you probably, if you drove up and down University, you probably saw these milling machines. They're a huge machine. They're called a pavement provider, is the name of that particular machine. And it would, of course, grind up the asphalt. They're trying to get that asphalt kind of in a level field so that they can go ahead and put down the new asphalt and so forth. Now, Linda was right when she spoke about she helped somebody get some of the milling materials, because the state has changed their policy, and I think probably Amy could speak to this better than I could, but IDOT now lets the milling of the asphalt, some of it to be taken back to the contractor's plant, and there they can use some of the millings. They used to not let them use it at all, but now they've begun to use some of that. So I hope that helps some of you to understand the difference between tilling and milling. So there is a difference.
Thank you, Mr. Salzer. Ms. Daly, are you sufficiently informed?
Yes, I am. And I want to thank County Engineer Amy McLaren, because she went to the great trouble of sending me an email to point all this out and very specifically. So thanks to Mr. Salzer and thanks to Amy McLaren.
Thank you, Ms. Daly. Mr. Elsesser.
First of all, I wanted to say that I'm going to support this resolution, so that's not the reason why I'm talking. I just wanted to talk to you about Millbrook Township, which is in my district. Millbrook Township is in the northwest part of the county, bordering Knox County and Stark County, and the biggest town it has is Laura, and I should know how many people are in Laura, but it's probably not over 20 or 30, but so they don't have a lot of municipalities and to draw from as far as income and real estate taxes and a tax base. But anyway, Amy McLaren, who does a great job, and myself and the Millbrook Township Road Commissioner Matt Perham have been on the phone many times the last month, because one of the things that happened during this bidding process, and you might want to call Amy up to verify this, or and she can she's better suited to talk about it, is one of the other companies that's not mentioned on here, I think it's Porter Brothers. They bid on several of the townships, and they were the lowest responsible bid, but they they were a reasonable bid. Okay, with that.
They weren't even allowed to bid.
Mr. Dillon, let me call on you, and then you fill us in.
Okay, I might have misunderstood Amy then. My understanding was that they were up against their limit, because IDOT limits them to so many projects and so many dollars, and based on how much they can. Do you mind if I talk without my mask? Because I think
please do.
They limit them on how much they can bid, and so they were up against their limit, and so Millbrook was hoping they would have been included in their bid, and they were not, which is understandable because they couldn't do any more, and so Millbrook could have chosen to take Cullinan, which was the next bid, but it was like $50,000 or $60,000 more for them, and that may not sound like a lot of money for like Limestone Township or Medina or somewhere like that, but when you get out into Millbrook Township, that's big time bucks, and so this has happened, I believe, 2 years in a row now, and so I was just out in the other room talking to Amy, and I'm just asking her, and I hope our legal counsel would agree that even after we support this tonight, which I think is going to pass unanimously, that we can actually rebid, and this other company, I believe Pavement Maintenance, they bid and they were up against their limit, but then they lost, I believe, some of their work, and so there might be an opening there for them to take on more now. So that's what I would just humbly ask is, you know, I know it's kind of a nuisance to maybe, but I think it's important for this small township to have an opportunity to rebid and get some, you know, at least something else to look at besides the Cullinan bid, which is 50 to 60,000 higher.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. I'll come back to you in a sec, Brian. Mr. Dillon.
Well, the actual number was $4,901 in difference. And so you can't even consider Porter Brothers' bid. Porter Brothers did not have the bonding to bid the project. And knowing that they bid, there's no way of telling that that's an accurate number. So they could have thrown in a low number to skew the bids, knowing that their number actually should have probably never been opened, but we have to open them. But the bonding is in there. And this has been a problem the last 3 years, Brian, if you recall. This isn't something new. This has been, Porter Brothers keeps throwing these numbers in there. Last year we had to pit road commissioners against road commissioners because they only had bonding, and I think they had to fit it in, so like 3 road commissioners got it. Porter Brothers has a solution. They can increase their bonding.
They're trying to do that.
Which that is a solution. They're not a responsible contractor when they don't have the bonding power and they bid a price. It's like, put it in layman's terms. If I hire somebody off the street, come into your house to put in a water heater, I mess it up and I flood out your house, or I don't perform the work. They don't have bonding. They wreck your house. It's on your insurance. It's on your thing. You hire a reputable contractor that has the bonding. They come in, they don't do the work, don't finish it out. You call their bond, and it's like an insurance policy on the work. So they basically are bidding without insurance, and they would like us to waive that policy, which I'm not okay with. If they were, and they're not a bad company. I have no problem with Porter Brothers, but you shouldn't be bidding work that you know that you do not have the capacity to bid, that you've already hit your allotment for the year. And it is an IDOT rule. We have to follow IDOT rules. I believe when we bid stuff, we follow IDOT rules. These are our rules that we set. They have, motor fuel tax money is set by miles, not by property tax. It's set by miles in their townships. Mr. Perham, great guy, love him. He can increase his levy out there, and we've had this discussion in their thing too, about townships not maxing out their levy. He can easily max out his levy, and that's a property tax, just like other places pay, that then he can increase his allotment from there. But the motor fuel tax comes from an allotment from the mileage. So he has other options. It's unfortunate we're at where this is at today. We've also talked, I think Amy, our staff offered a value engineering, because if you look at the numbers, there's a price in there that they give, I don't know, per linear foot, per yard, however they do. In most projects, I might have had $50,000 to bid it. The price comes in at 60. Well, I don't have more than 60. So you are allowed to enter into negotiations with the lowest responsible bidder, when what's responsible is checked all those boxes. So you can say, listen, I only have 50. You gave me a price per square foot. Can we go that route? So they could have entered into that agreement. Now, also the way bids work is if you look at it, some of the linear foot marks in there are at $4. Then some of them are at $3.80. Well, if you go look at the other thing, some of these roads are longer, so it's a capacity issue. If I'm coming out, I'm doing more work, I can do it cheaper because I'm already have my equipment there, instead of small little patches where I have to haul my tractors out, my oiler, everything else. So some jobs, the costs go down the larger the project, and that's just the way the math works on it. So I'm happy to talk to Matt. I have been talking to him because we talked today, and I know I've talked to our fellow member here about it, but there is nothing that was wrong in this process. There's nothing faulty in this process, and to say otherwise is inaccurate. But the process is what it is every year. Brian, I wholeheartedly disagree with you, and we can sit down and talk to the road commissioners, but if you look at this, I've heard that there's been things saying, oh, well, it wasn't enough bids. In this one, we only had, if you throw out Porter's, 1 bid. But in these other townships tonight, we had 5 go to pavement maintenance, and we had 7 to R.A. Cullinan. We can't force people to bid. You just put a bid out there, and you hope you get the numbers. So, and honestly, the work around here right now, between the state's capital bill and everything, these contractors have a lot of work. What's that? And also the cost of material. I don't know what the oil is, but I just saw a bid project the other day between asphalt was more expensive than concrete as the alternate. So that somebody got a concrete parking lot for cheaper than what the asphalt is based off the price of oil. And the price of all construction materials is raised about 30 to 50% because we've had COVID issues, shipping issues, we've had wildfires, we've had Texas, all sorts of things. So the cost of material is really what's gone through the roof. And we can't, in my opinion, we can't even look at Porter's Brothers numbers as accurate numbers. They might have been accurate if they were valid and willing to accept the job, but they bid those numbers wholeheartedly knowing that their bids were going to be thrown out because they have been multiple times. So it's part of a game because they're upset at UCM for throwing them out for not having bonding. So there's a whole lot more to this story than what meets the eye.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Mr. Elsasser, are you going to
I was just
argue
going to
with
ask you
him or make
a
a
question,
different point?
Mr. Chairman. Did you hear me say that I thought this was a faulty process? For the record.
It was so long ago, honest to God.
I
don't
promised you.
remember.
Did anyone else hear me say that it was a faulty process? I'm sorry, but I'm kind of tired of you accusing me of things that I didn't say. I didn't condemn this process at all. I'm just saying that it was unfortunate that, you know, that the one person was already up against their limit and you know, nobody wants to, like you said, mess around with the smaller townships because they have to bring all their equipment in and everything. And so that's what I wanted to say. And
Well, I think maybe what Mr. Dillon was really responding to was your suggestion that we run the process again.
Correct.
not the whole process, it'd just be for
just these two townships.
Well,
And,
he said they want out, Rosefield. They don't want to.
well, he can't speak, so.
But I know that, but that's but anyway, in regarding the property, what I meant with regard to property taxes, that's their tax base as far as how much total money they have to spend on everything. I mean, I realize they have motor fuel taxes, you know, for blacktopping and things like that, but, you know, a township, you know, they have to buy other things, you know, snow equipment and things like that, and so that's.
Which our rules don't allow for debate. I'd be happy to talk about it, but I never accused you of saying anything. But when you talk about the process wanting to rebid it, that's talking about a faulty process. I do wish you would have had your homework done with the numbers and everything else prior to the meeting.
I did. Amy told me that it was 50 to 60,000 more.
21,000.
Gentlemen, time out. Just a sec. Ms. McLaren, can I throw you in the water here a sec? Come on up where a microphone would be.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
How are you?
Thank you.
Welcome. Nice to see you again. One of the best professional engineer in the state. Amy, the subject of the rebidding after the fact for two of the townships, what is the issue with that?
If we were to rebid, which we could, we would want to make sure that the bidders would be pre-qualified, as they were in this round. The numbers are out already, so all the bidders know what those numbers are.
Right.
I'm not sure there would be any benefit. There might be capacity to be gained, but like Mr. Dillon mentioned, a lot of folks, they're already getting their projects lined up for the summer. So I haven't seen seal coating work done yet by the professionals. So I don't know if they'd have the capacity, honestly.
So my second question to you is the bonding Mr. Dillon was describing is across their entire book of business.
Correct.
So if they have $100 million worth of bonding, I'm making a number up, and they've used 105, bidding something else is kind of folly to me because they don't meet the minimum requirement to bid, which would be I have available bonding capacity, right?
Yes.
So what happens is in the course of the spring, these bids are going on all over the countryside, and you're winning some, you're getting awarded some, and you're using up your bonding capacity.
Correct.
So the reason they might have bid in this is because they hadn't used it up yet?
We asked for their affidavit of availability, which shows that bonding capacity after the bids, and it showed that they were at capacity.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments before I'll let Mr. Elsasser wrap it up? Ms. Pastucha?
I just have a question. It was mentioned that this township may not have maxed out their available taxing ability. Is that the case in this situation?
I haven't seen their levy for this year, Ms. Pastuccia, but obviously whatever levy ordinance that they passed and filed with the clerk would be is already in place, and I believe you can check with the clerk, but I believe they're doing an extension or even rolled to the treasurer now. So any increase in their levy, if they're not maxed out, would not be able to be applied until calendar year 22.
Thank you. Not to get into the weeds, but many of the townships aren't maxed out and expect the county to chip in more sometimes, and we have our own tax levy challenges as well. So we've seen this. Final comment, Mr. Alsace.
Regarding Ms. Patucha's question, I think a lot of the small townships, go all the way up to their limit without having to hold a public hearing. I mean, they're just, I know some of them do because Amy and I just looked it up a while back, but I'm not sure about Millbrook Township. The other thing, again, I humbly ask, and I know it'd be a nuisance, but that they would reconsider this, I want to support this tonight, but reconsider bidding this out as soon as possible so that they might have a chance to look at something. And finally, I think this would be safe to say, Mr. Dillon and I are okay. Okay.
Oh, I've had to do that with him. I know you're okay, but thanks for telling us. Thanks, Jimmy. All right, so motion on the table. Are there any other questions regarding the agenda item? Seeing none, please vote.
Seventeen ayes, 1 abstention. Next is item number 3, a resolution from your executive committee recommending approval of county administrators' compensation.
Can we get the item on the floor, please? Mr. Fennell, and a second, Mr. Ricker. Thank you. As a result of our executive session conversation, we need to send back to the executive committee language that we agreed upon for presentation to the administrator and give him his chance to review the counter to his counter. So we would be referring it back to exec. That's the vote on. Is that fair? Thank you. Any questions? A couple of you might not have been here, so you don't have to fly with us without getting an answer. Basically, I'm going to follow your eyeballs, Brandy. Scott countered our offer to him from last month, and we have a response to his counter. So the award, the contract in your packet tonight is not ready for prime time. Okay. Please vote. So yes is send it back to committee.
Yes. We had a motion and a second.
Oh, to put it on the.
Okay. Thank you. So somebody amend my motion, please. Thank you, Mr. Ricker. All right, so we'll have to do the amendment. I can't slam that through. All right, so we would be voting on the amendment,
Okay.
which is to send it back to exec.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
I'm going to go back here. Okay. So okay, now you're voting on the amendment. Miss Allison? Mr. Alsasser? Chairman Rand. And Mr. Ricker? We're voting on the amendment.
Voting on the motion as amended.
You're voting on, so the original motion was to vote on the resolution itself. That was put on the table for discussion. There was a motion to amend to send it, to refer it back to committee. That was also seconded, and now you're voting on that amendment to send it back to committee. Yep, the amendment. Yeah.
So the terminology is the motion as amended. That's what this amendment is. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It is on the amendment. We'll come back to the motion as amended. You're voting on the amendment. We're on the amendment. All right, so what's coming up next is the motion as amended to send the resolution back to committee. Is it up? Okay.
Mr. Renault? 18 ayes. Next is item 4, a resolution from the Chairman of Public Safety and Justice Committee and the County Administrator recommending approval of a fiduciary agreement between Peoria County on behalf of the Peoria County Sheriff's Office and Peoria Multi-County Narcotics Enforcement Group, PMEG, to serve as a fiduciary for PMEG with regard to federal seizures monies.
Mr. Rosenbaum? Mr. Fennel on the second, thank you. I had a discussion with Mr. Rosenbaum earlier today, as well as a conversation with House Counsel, Ms. Jody Hoos, our state's attorney, based on some look back that we need to undertake. We need to defer this to make sure we have absolute clarity in previous agreements that this may impact. So at the recommendation of our state's attorney, she has asked us to defer this till she can make certain that the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Mr. Rosenbaum.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to send this back to committee so the council can look it over and make sure that we're doing everything proper. Thank you.
So you would be making a motion to defer. Thank you, Mr. Fennel. So we would be now at a discussion point on should we defer. All right. So now what we're voting on is the motion to defer. It's a substitute motion, so we're not amending the first one, which is the way we could have done the other one. So I'm a quick learner. I got Steve looking at me like, don't do it again. Okay. Please vote. Please vote. Oh, man.
18 ayes.
He
Okay.
would. He said stuff, I think, to confuse me sometimes. It does. Is this the deferral?
This is, the first one was a deferral. This is back to what we have on here.
Yeah, we don't need this one
Oh, I'm
since
sorry.
we put in a substitute emotion, not an amendment to the first one.
All right, let me.
Is the gentleman from PMEG here? I think we were going to try to catch him before he came and explain. Okay. Thank you.
Item number 5, a resolution from the Chairman of County Health Committee and the County Administrator recommending approval of amendments to the Peoria County Code, Chapter 10, Food Safety Ordinance, effective May 1st, 2021.
Ms. Williams and Mr. Renault on the second. Sorry, Betty. This is a comprehensive item. I don't really believe it should just sit without comment. So, Mr. Ricker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, again, as this is comprehensive, some of us, I think, have been more involved in it than others, but for the public in the audience, I would like to ask, and I don't know, Scott or whoever's the appropriate person to highlight what are the actions being taken, because we want to make sure we're very clear with our public what we're changing and what we're not changing in this, because if you just read it online, and I did again today, we don't have the red line on the public view, so it's really difficult for a audience member looking at this to understand what we really changed. So if I could ask for a description, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Scott, you have experts from health. Welcome. State your name, please.
My name is Carrie Panera. I'm the Director of Environmental Health.
Welcome.
Thank you. Oops. Sorry. So the largest changes, or the biggest change, with the one with the most impact, is the addition of a license for the multi-event temporary food establishments, which has been something for the last several years that's been in the works, been requested by a lot of our clients and vendors. It simplifies our temporary event process for those repeat or habitual vendors, the ones that are consistently obtaining temporary event licenses. It simplifies the process. It sets a one-time fee or an annual fee with an annual application process, as opposed to every individual event and payment and fee. Additionally, we did some cleanup of just some grammatical or typos that were in there. We've also added a conflict of interest to this particular ordinance. It's in our other ordinances. This was initiated or realized that it was not in this ordinance. 2020's kind of got me wiped on my years, but we were looking to add that in right before the recreational marijuana use was made legal. That way, if there were any other rules that were made by the city or the county or what have you, then it would cover that conflict of interest. One of the other items that we were adding in, I'm going to grab my red line copy real quick. So we've added definitions to go along with the multi-event temporary food establishment license, as well as we defined what a virtual inspection is and what a hybrid inspection is. With COVID, changes were made in how we did some of our inspections for our food establishments, just to accommodate not being able to be in person for so long when we were on the lockdown, etc. And still wanting to be able to provide outreach and assistance to our food establishments. Those types of inspections have proved valuable, so we anticipate those being used in the future for maybe follow-up inspections as opposed to going on site. Additionally, in the past, we never had or didn't have the ability to, all food establishments have a risk category assigned to them. Their fees are based on those risk categories. In the past, when we've opened up an establishment, and we might have opened them up, let's say, as a category 2, and we go back for their operational inspection within 30 days to find out that they made changes or what have you, or unfortunately, a lot of people aren't 100% sure of what their plans are when they do open, and then they find other things. So they might be then categories at a higher risk, and so we wanted to be able to collect the difference for that. Additionally, cottage food operations have been allowed by state statute for many years now. We've never, even though we've been allowed to, we've never charged a registration fee, even though we do accept their registration when they meet those requirements. So we wanted the ability to charge their registration fee, whichever is the maximum allowed by that statute, which is currently $25, which isn't much, but they are looking at some proposed changes to that act that would require us to do a little bit more, like issue certificates and et cetera. So and then one of the other items is the ability to accept an inspection from a county that maybe houses the commissary of a prepackaged mobile unit. A good example would be Schwann's. We have several of them licensed in our county to be able to drive around and sell their products. Their commissary is located in Tazewell County. Sometimes they're hard to get pinned down to do their routine inspection. So this would allow us to collaborate and, if need be, use an inspection from the neighboring county. Additionally, our mobile inspection program allows us now to, or provides us the ability to email inspections. So we wanted to include that as a possibility for what we leave for the restaurants for their report, if you will. I think those are the biggest, or the highlights, I guess you could say. So.
Thank you, Mr. Ricker.
Thank you, Ms. Pinero, for that. I guess the last, maybe just for the audience and that, maybe you could articulate the collaboration you've had with some of the multi-event food establishments. And so we did, I guess the point is I want to make sure people understand the health department didn't just do this in a vacuum. They worked with others, and I'd just like to have her make sure that's, out there. So if you could maybe articulate a little bit, that would help us. Thank you.
Sure. Pre-COVID, we haven't had a meeting since then, but we have a food safety advisory work group, or food safety work group, and it's comprised of county licensed establishments. We have school represented. We've had mom and pops represented. We try to get a variety from not just the city of Peoria, but throughout the county. We had special meetings with additional temporary food vendors, especially those that this would help them out, or who had in the past, inquired about such a license. So we held different meetings. We proposed different things. We took their feedback and made some tweaks. We do realize that should this be approved, this is kind of a pilot year. So we might find some things that maybe aren't working, or things that would work better. So we're open to that, but I know that it's a very welcomed license, especially for those who do a lot of the temporary events.
Thank you, Mr. Elsesser.
And so, Ms. Pinero, they, if they do the same thing on an annual basis, they don't have to renew the license then each year? Or?
Yes, they would still renew every year and pay a license fee every year, which is a once a year, as opposed to somebody who does 50 events
Oh,
would
okay.
have to submit 50 applications and 50 different fees.
Okay. Okay, I want to say this, Carol Wetterauer, who used to own Rabers and now Buddy owns it, he had a lot of suggestions over the years on how this could be improved, and he's passed away now, but he would be very proud of you today.
Thank you. Buddy has been on our food
Oh,
safety
okay.
work group in the past.
Okay.
The past few years, I know were challenging for them with their situation, so, and then again with COVID, we haven't had a lot of contact or meetings, so this is kind of bringing what we did 2018, 2019 back again, so.
And you have to have a little lighthearted moment in a county board meeting every now and then. I looked through the whole thing, but I didn't see anything in there about ladies getting together to bake pies at the church. There's nothing in there about that, are there? Is there? That's kind of a standing.
Don't tell them about it now.
Yeah, no, that's kind of a. If you live out in the rural community, it's been an issue over the years, and they've always cooperated with as well. So.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's just ladies you should speak of unless you want to be
Well,
labeled.
the guys making the pies
Thank
too.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sharon Williams. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make note for the public that this is actually going to save food vendors money. And also it will save on staff time. A lot of these events are nights and weekends, which means overtime for our staff when these are going on. So that will help with that as well.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan, you are serving on the Health Board. You give this a thumbs up as well?
I appreciate the presentation. I've heard it before and totally in agreement to saving a lot of time as far as vendors having to repetitively sign up for licensing each time they do a event. So an annual is most definitely a time saver and money saver.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Oh, Ms. Groves Allison.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else, the resolution on the floor is to approve some amendments to our food service code. Please vote.
Eighteen ayes. Next is suspension of rules, item number 6.
Could I get a motion to suspend the rules? Mr. Renault, and the second we'll give to the young lady, Miss Bryant. Yes, I was using your first name. I said Miss Brandy, because many things have not come up through committees necessarily. We need to suspend the rules. I don't want to say perfunctory. It's just something we've been doing for a year or something. All those, please vote.
Chairman? Thank you. 17 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you.
Item number 7, a proclamation extending the declaration of emergency due to COVID-19 in Peoria County, Illinois.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I saw a second. Ms. Pestusha. On the second, so the item on the floor is consistent with our previous acts. Make sure we stay in the flow of reimbursement and special state rules that have come to us as a result of the pandemic. Any questions? Please vote.
Sixteen ayes, 2 nays. Miscellaneous and announcements.
Thank you. Will we have an executive session tonight?
Not that I'm aware of.
It's very special then. All right, so let me start with Mr. Watkins, miscellaneous and announcements. You good? All right, Mr. Salzer, Mr. Elsasser. Mr. Vice Chairman.
It is encouraging for the public to see where the county worked with the health department to make something more efficient and easier for our citizens, because you hear the government gets big and we do this extra thing and extra, and I think this was a good example of how they worked with the community and streamline things and make it better. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Fennell. It's really a very interesting governing responsibility for the board members, because there's some very unique topics. We're not talking about asphalt and front end loaders. Miscellaneous, Miss Kate.
I just want to thank the coroner publicly, Mr. Harwood, for his 2020 review and forward outlook. I thought that was really helpful to see what he's doing. A lot of times I feel like all we ever see is budget numbers, and I really appreciated his report. And I just want to give him kudos for some of the real science work that he's doing. There is a journal article that was published in March of 2020, and I think it kind of got forgotten about because of other issues, but in the American Journal of Forensic Medicine and Pathology, they published a research article regarding the first vaping death in the U.S., and that was authored by Dr. Amanda Humans, who's our Peoria County forensic pathologist, and our county coroner, Jamie Harwood. And for those of you in the science and academic world, having a journal article published in a peer-reviewed journal article is a really big deal. So I just want to give a shout out to Jamie and give him some recognition that he deserves. So great job.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very fond of some of the work he's been doing in professionalizing that whole department, but most importantly, his proactive work in trying to help youth and people a little older than youth understand the risks and threats from not only driving under the influence, but opioids and drugs. And I can tell you the little shows he puts on for students of our public schools and private as well, really he takes it to the limit, and I think he's a powerful communicator trying to help young people understand we're not replaceable and that our bodies break. He's really should be getting an award for that too. I've seen many of the programs he's put together, often on his off time. And let me go, other miscellaneous? Seriously? Okay. All right. Well, I sure as heck don't have anything to say, except our meeting tonight is concluding with a different administrator than it began. Ms. Shauna Musselman has stepped in because Mr. Sorrell is off to see a soccer game with one of his children, who's, I think, starring tonight. So, bye, Scott. Welcome, Shauna. Did you have anything to add? Yeah. Wouldn't dare. All right. We would be adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions to the people of our county, Peoria.